I totally agree. I think you in general is a very good presenter.
Okay,
also.
thanks. Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Nantucket Finance Committee meeting for Thursday, February 13th. And to my right, I guess to the left of your TV screen, I have Christy Kickham, Steve Morey, Cliff Williams, Kim Savarino, Craig Sperry, and John Tiffany. Here, Jim Kelly and David Worth will not be attending. Is there any public comment today that is on any items that aren't on our agenda? Okay. Approval of minutes. And back to the same thing. I still can't find those minutes. I'll leave it to anybody who wants to bring it up. Shame on me. Anybody?
For the sake of 48 hours, if we defer till next meeting, if everyone hasn't had a chance,
That's fine.
I'd defer that.
All right. Any objections to that?
What's that?
Minutes. We're going to move on for minutes for today.
Oh,
Carry them over.
carry them over?
Okay.
Yeah, I read them too.
That's good.
Just forget about them for the next meeting.
Okay.
There'll be a test on Monday.
Yeah. Committee reports. I have nothing. Anybody have any committee reports today? The only thing I will say is for the contract review, which is coming up on Tuesday, I believe we have all the information that we're going to be getting. I'm looking over at Christie. Is that correct?
Should be right.
Okay, good.
Should now.
All right.
I talked to Matt Fee about the monies for the, we would appropriate for the comparison of the.
Oh, right. For the-
Yeah.
yeah.
I thought we should wait till after the wage study was done and then maybe entertain it.
That's fine. We'll always be here ready to listen. Okay, very good. Any other committee reports? Oh, Tim.
I would just say that the fire station work group has been meeting pretty regularly, looking at several options. This facility, this location, as well as the existing location, and also looking at the concept of maybe splitting our forces and having a station on the other side of town. The fact that it was, we weren't ready and the warrant wasn't a pressure, a couple of members have had travel plans, so we've stopped meeting for a month, and we'll pick it up again first week in March. I can't remember the day, and hopefully get right back into it again. So that's where we stand on that.
Okay, thanks for the update. Any other comments? All right. And moving on to item number 5, which is a review/discussion regarding Amendment 5 to Waste Services Agreement with Landfill Operations, known as Waste Options. And on Monday, we received a presentation from Mr. George Aronson, and with some questions from John Giorgio and the attorney from Waste Options, who I'm sure, his first name is Jeff, I'm not sure his last name. And so we heard a lot of information, we received a lot of information, so it's had time to digest it. What the process is that, again, the selectmen have asked this committee to comment and weigh in on this amendment. So what I'd like to do is hear what the committee has to say, and I'll be jotting this down to write up a report, which I'll be submitting tomorrow for their agenda, and I'll be making an appearance next Wednesday to present it. So, and then they can do what they choose to do, because ultimately it's their decision whether or not to approve this amendment or not. Okay. So with that, I'll just open up the floor, and anybody would like to start? Cliff.
I talked to George Aronson about it, and he shed some more light on the overall costs that Waste Options absorbs as far as the cell and the containment of the water and the liners and everything that goes into it, as much as he could, seeing it's a lot of information. So, and he tried to go into some of the history, and he said he wouldn't mind to come back and talk to the Finance Committee about it, but I know there's probably not enough time in order to get our response back to the selectmen. But I feel better about, I guess, the contract, or at least going forward, more so than I did before. I learned a great deal, considering I didn't know too much about the landfill. So, and then, of course, the implications of, we discussed the implications of the Reese situation and the town's position, and so, anyway, I feel better about it. It's a lot of information, and I don't know how to put it all into words, but I'll try my best to give you everything.
Well, you started. That's good. Just for
Yeah.
for my purposes, again, is that I want to answer selectmen from what we feel as a committee. Why? So being just what I'm hearing from your, or digesting from what you're saying, is that that the amendment seems to make a little more sense than it did previously, and some of your questions were answered. Is that fair to sum up?
Right, and I have some emails that he sent me that I'm going to forward on to you that everybody
I'll
else
get to the
can.
committee. Yep. Yeah, that's fine. Christie?
Yeah, I think we had discussed, originally and all along, not having someone on the inside to be really up on these issues, but I was comforted. George seems to have really immersed himself in, the numbers and what goes on at the landfill, so I felt a lot more comfortable with that. It's good to see the sides working together, hopefully, for a common goal. So I'd be in favor of this,
Okay, very
the
good.
amendment.
Yeah, that's fine. Great. Further comments? Greg?
I guess I'm in favor of it also. My concern would be the amounts that were quoted by Kara being, was it 20%, 25%? That could vary a lot depending on just how things go. And I guess down the road we're going to know once the results are in. So I suppose at that point waste options are going to have to, I guess, sharpen their pencils some more and make it more competitive. So
They might.
Yeah.
That's part of the flexibility. Yeah, Christie?
Just on that,
Yep.
and that's, I had asked the question, what flexibility they have, depending on when those numbers start coming in, and it's clear, and I think they both had mentioned that there's flexibility to reevaluate what we've gone through, and so, said there could be an Amendment 6, so I was a little bit relieved by that.
Okay. John?
It's an unknown, Joe.
John?
Yeah, I'm just going to repeat what I said last time, and that is, sooner the better.
Sooner the better what? I'm sorry.
You get this done.
Oh, get this done sooner the better. Sorry. Okay. Yep.
It's the old saying about a slippery slope. You know where that term came from? It came from a guy who's got a business whose business is about to go down the pooper. And what happens is that he decides to wait till it goes down to figure out what he's going to do, and that's too late. Because once you start down that slope, and that's where the term slippery slope comes from, you're dead. You aren't going to stop till it gets down to the bottom. And so I think the issue here is real simple to me, and that is, what we have is that we have a document that was based on a negotiation, because we have two parties here, not one party. It's not just one way from our point of view. It's a two-way street. We've got a negotiated document, which I was quite surprised at how balanced it was, considering that, and so therefore I think if George negotiated it with it, I have to give George some reasonable marks for negotiating a reasonable balanced amendment. But I just think we need to get going with it. The last thing we need to do is delay it.
Okay.
Because there isn't anybody around this table that's knows enough now, or is going to know enough, with the possible exception of Tim, about the ins and outs of all the details of that amendment. So all we can do is go on faith that they've done the best they can. The two parties have agreed to it, so I think to us, let's get it on. Yeah.
Okay. Tim?
Well, I would just say it's a shame that we have to deal with it this way. However, we're in this position.
Yeah.
And I would just pick up on what Craig said. I think that, if the numbers that Kara has put forward in her solid waste budget, that's a difficult position you're in. I mean, it's a guess. We don't know what the marketplace is going to look like now with competition. And so, to your point, John, the sooner we become competitive, the better off we are that we might make those numbers. Right. So we got to get on with it. And I think that, Mr. Chairman, if you go to the board, I think that's the message, that the longer we delay being competitive, the more revenue is being diverted to our competitor, and we can't let that happen. We at least have to be on a level playing field. So.
isn't it?
Ken's writing this down. Longer,
Mr. Chairman?
just a sec. Oh, go ahead and speak, yeah.
Yeah, see, the issue about the slippery slope is that once you've lost the business, you've lost it. You're not going to get it back. And so the issue is you want to move before you lose the business. Because once you lost it, you think you're going to get it back? Very hard to get something back once somebody's made a move like that. There isn't a businessman alive who won't tell you the same thing, who's had to live with a competitive situation. Steve, right? You lose a customer, gone.
That's right, that's right. But I think maybe within this specific context, that might not be the case. I mean, if we're talking about being able to lower our prices beyond what the competitor is willing to do, then maybe we can, in fact, get it back. I mean, the best case scenario is that we don't lose them in the first place, but I'm not sure that would hold true over the long term. You know, if we can offer a competitive service at a better price, I think, you know, we probably could get some of these people back.
Yeah, if you take your shorts off on Main Street, you're right, you can get it done.
Okay.
We're trying to avoid taking the shorts off.
Between that and the slippery slopes, we've got a lot to think
I'm going to
about
watch
today.
this meeting.
Yeah.
Some images I don't want to share. Okay.
Different metaphors. All
right. Further discussion.
Well, I don't want to be the only
Yeah.
member of the panel who doesn't comment, so I say that I want to echo what I think everybody else is saying, is that we need to get this done and get this done as soon as possible. And I want to thank Mr. Atherton, who's here with us tonight, for the analysis that you put together. That was particularly helpful for me to see just how low, as a percentage of the rolling 12-month averages in terms of the tonnage that we put across the scales is the threshold. I mean, the break-even threshold is fairly low. So it seems like this negotiated agreement is certainly in the town's favor, and look forward to seeing it be put to practice soon.
I'm writing that down. Okay, very good. Now, we can do a formal motion, or we can just do a show of hands. But I would take it to say that support for this Fifth Amendment is pretty much universal.
I'll make a motion to approve the
Consensus.
amendment.
Okay, so make a motion.
Fine.
Okay,
Yeah, second?
and second, all right. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So, to you, Mr. Atherton, you'll be receiving something in writing tomorrow, and I'll see you next Wednesday and say, yeah, we like it. See ya. Okay.
Sounds like
All right.
a good committee report.
Very well. Just put it early on the agenda. Okay, the next area is a review of real estate and zoning articles. Well, we completed that last meeting. So we'll move on to review of warrant articles for ATM. If you see next to it, there's Articles 82 to 105. In our attempts to be transparent and follow the open meeting law, from here on out, I will, at least until the bitter end, before the warrant goes to print, is that I will try to provide a range of what articles we'll be talking about. And I thought today we would start with the home rule petitions, and those articles and the real estate articles are included. There are a few real estate articles we will not be, well, we could, but I don't expect us to take any motions on, but we certainly can talk about them. So unless there's any objections, I would like to start with Article 82. Oh, and one other note, I did ask Rick to come in as a informed party on the home rule petitions and real estate articles, that if we have any questions, we could ask, and thank you, Rick, for being so kind to try to answer those questions for us, because we need all the guidance we can get.
Just here to serve.
That's my line. Okay. So with that, we'll start with the Airport Revolving Fund, and that's Article 82. Now, this is an article that was originally approved at the 2012 annual town meeting, and it's still working its way through the House. So a positive motion on this will just continue the process of getting this approved through. So, discussion on this. Tim?
Well, I would just jump in and say the needs that were present on the table when we initially reviewed and supported this concept are on the table just as strong as they were, and I see no reason, or I've heard no argument that we shouldn't work as hard as we can to get this approved.
That's a good point.
I'd like to make a motion that we refile,
Or to adopt.
support, adopt, whatever.
I think we'll use the language, we could use, I think, motion to adopt. We'll probably stick with that for these.
New article.
What happens to these? We sent them last year. It just goes into some queue and falls on the ground
Well,
at the
they
end
go
of the year.
to, the process is, and Rick, jump in if I get this wrong, they go through, they're submitted to our state rep, which is Mr. Madden,
Right.
who begins the process up in Beacon Hill to get these approved. And some of them are in various stages of that process. And so, but every year they need to be re-ratified
Okay.
to keep them in the queue. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Yeah, I mean, so some of these, there's a long queue. There are how many bills up there every year? I
Mhm.
mean, hundreds. Every legislator, he's got a lot of stuff he wants to put in. And they're in the queue, and some are important enough for our legislators to push, and some aren't as important. They have to pick and choose. They don't get everything they want every year. I think this one ought to be fairly straightforward. It benefits the state as well as ourselves.
Right.
Some others have different characteristics.
Okay. Tim?
I would agree with all of that, and I would also say the legislature has new members every year, so it's like a new road race every year, so you have to, it's a new starting point, and so everything has to be refiled and redone, so it looks like nothing's happening, but there's a lot happening. We may not make the cut, but there's a lot going on up there, and I
Right.
sure hope maybe we can, over the years, we've heard, all of us, that the more home rule actions that we send up there, we dilute our own effectiveness, because Tim Madden can't work on 20 at once.
Right.
He's lucky if he can convince his colleagues to get 2 through. So we should always be mindful that we don't want to have too many, but by the same token, we should support what the voters have already approved, in my mind.
Keep it going.
Particularly this one. This is an important one.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. All right. Well, with that in mind, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, motion to adopt?
Yep.
And a second. Okay, discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that's motion to adopt. For these, I'm not sure if we need to make a comment or not, so I'm just going to go through as if not, and if anyone would like to make a comment, that's fine, we can discuss it. All righty? Article 83, it's a home rule petition again, Nantucket Mosquito Control Act, and this also was approved at the 2012 annual town meeting and at 2013 annual town meeting, and this is very similar to the airport revolving fund, and it's just in the queue there. And this is to change how mosquito control is being implemented on the island. And there was some members who were on a couple of years ago, there was a lot of discussion about this. And so we're where we are previously, so a discussion on this. Go ahead.
Well, Mr. Chairman, again, there are some people that feel very passionate about this subject. I'm one of them. I think depending on where you live on the islands, could be a bigger problem than other areas, but it's been a lot of work done, and hope that we can get our mosquito population under control and people can enjoy the summer evenings without being eaten alive. So I would move that we adopt this.
Okay, so motion to adopt for a second.
Second.
You have a second? Okay, discussion on the motion. John.
Yeah, the thing I'm always, on something like this, I always wonder, I know we've got it in the budget, mosquito control is in the budget. It's a line item now, and I don't know what this is gonna do that isn't already there. I think of what Tim says, and I would agree with what Tim said before, and that is, if you get a lot of these things up there, you dilute the most important things, and I just get a little concerned that with it, I'm not saying this isn't important, what I'm saying is, I don't know that it's needed. And that would be my question.
The only area, and again, I'll look to Rick or for you. Oh, Kara. Oh, good. I was going to ask you to chime on in. You're better answer than me.
The home rule petition has been sent to the legislature. It's been recommended out of the first committee. It's now in Ways and Means.
Oh, great.
What this particular home rule petition does for Nantucket is allows it to work on public and private property and have the Conservation Commission regulations superseded so that property can be treated and material moved so that pawning won't happen. And the reason we have a home rule petition is that in all of the cases, the county is the entity that gets the funding for mosquitoes, and each individual community in the county has a portion of their cherry sheet sent to the State Reclamation Board, which is the mosquito oversight board. And the counties use that money to do the mosquito treatment. In our case, being a town and a county, we don't necessarily have to have the cherry sheet deducted. We can use the money that's already been authorized to do the mosquito treatment. So it basically accepts the provisions of Chapter 252, which is the mosquito treatment authorization legislation from 1942, I think.
Okay.
But what it does is allows Nantucket to fund it differently than the rest of the state.
Okay.
So there is an issue with that. The State Reclamation Board wouldn't have the control over the money that it has of the others, and they're not really happy about giving up that control. So we may have to go back with some rewording that allows them to
Retain control.
kind of keep control.
Okay.
We have to report to them. We have to tell them how we're spending the money and so forth, which I don't see as a problem. I just don't see the need to use them as the funding mechanism when it's already in place.
Okay.
So, anyway, this would be the third time this was authorized.
Right.
And Tim was having some issues with making these explanations because the State Reclamation Board is afraid of having their power to grow their customers.
Okay.
May end up having to change.
Change it. Is that something that could be changed in a motion at this town meeting? Or would that be something that could become later on?
Later on.
Okay.
We'll go through, it's been presented in its present form.
Right.
It's a 2-year process.
Okay.
The legislature has a 2-year process. It was presented in January of 13. It goes till December of 14, this legislative session.
Okay.
And if in the meantime, we discover that they're not going to approve it in its present format, we would come back to the next town meeting.
Okay, and then change that time. All right, that's helpful. Very good. Okay, thank you. Well, I'm glad you're here. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And Article 84, and this is the Community Preservation Committee, and this also was approved originally in 2012 and 2013, and it, as you can read by this, it's about one of their members being picked as a member from the Historic Commission versus what's the other one? HDC, thank you. I think about it. And that's the main one. And as for this, I'm not sure where we are with this. This is kind of 2 years. On this one, I might be considered. I have second good thoughts on that myself. But anyway, so discussion on that.
I just say a motion to adopt, because I think we've been around and around with this too many times, and I think we finally agreed that the committee members at least said they spent too much time on the committees they're already on, and they rather appoint somebody. Is this the one?
There are a couple of them. I'm not
Yeah.
sure the one. Because there was another one with the Community Preservation Committee. I don't want to say yes, I'm confused here.
Oh, Greg, you want to say?
I think you're, if I'm not mistaken, it might be the Curtis Barnes ones where he wants HDC members appointed as opposed to being elected.
No.
No,
this
there was
a-
another one a couple of years ago. This is why I'm confused, that it would have changed the constitution of the HGC, but in a different way than this. And that was not a home rule petition. I think that was a bylaw.
Yeah.
And that's the only one, that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure if, to me, if that's the same or not. That you're saying. I'm not sure. That's all. Because it was confusing. But I guess my concern with this has been there twice, and I don't know where it is. And I'm not sure.
Well, do we have, I guess I missed that on it. Do we ever pull ones out that have been,
Oh, sure.
okay, I wasn't aware of that. I just figured if we sent it once, we send them again.
Well, sometimes after a while, it's good luck. You can change your mind. So.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I think this one is the one that there's a difference between what the Act for the Community Preservation Committee says versus what we have. There's a Historic Districts Commission that we have, and then there's another.
Historical commission. Yeah.
Right, and they're two separate.
Right.
And I think what's going on here is we're trying to pick the one that's more relevant, or the HDC to be the sitting member.
Instead of historical commission.
Right.
That's correct. That's right. Thank you. That's exactly it.
And so I kind of support that. I'd rather.
Okay.
But I don't want to talk against myself here. It's true that the more we send up there, the more we dilute our ability to get the ones we really want. Or, maybe one thing we could offer the selectmen as a suggestion is to put a priority list on these. They probably already do anyways. But,
Not formally, maybe informally in terms of who you contact.
yeah, but this one, I think, it would be great to get this squared away, because there seems to be some membership issues. That's a good way to say it, probably. So the more we could clarify the roles and who's responsible, I think the better it would be.
Okay. You'd like to make a motion?
I made a motion to adopt, didn't
Oh, you did. I'm sorry. I apologize. We have a motion to adopt. Is there a second?
I'll second this motion.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Sorry. Okay. Discussion on the motion to adopt. Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I?
Okay, so keep this going through. All right, excuse me. On that. Article 85, again, a home rule petition, conveyance of property by the County/Smooth Hummocks Moorlands Management District. And this also was approved at a special meeting in 2012 and reaffirmed in 2013. And I'm not really sure. Rick, I'm going to look to you on the meaning of this article, if you don't
Well, I
mind.
think we're talking about conveying property to the land bank.
Okay.
And usually when the town has, in effect, property that's already open, the land bank has more resources, and it's often a good thing to get into permanent conservation with the land bank. There was some discussion in here about retaining for the town easement rights, so that access over this property would be available to the public in perpetuity, as the land bank could not abridge that right. So that's included as part of this.
Okay, very good, thank you. Discussion. Tim?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, through you to Rick.
Sure.
Rick, this is the 92-acre parcel that we're talking about, right?
You say the 92,
The-
you talking about the FAA?
Yeah.
No.
This is a separate.
There's another parcel, I was trying to bring it up in my mind. I think this is the one, Tim, in Cisco.
Off Heller's Way.
And it goes down, I'm not sure if it's Layton's Beach, someone might know the names of the beaches better
Okay.
than I do. But you come in through past part, let's go to the right, or off of Heller's Way, for example. I'm pretty sure that's.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, I think you're right, Rick, judging from the way this is, the heading on it. I just wanted to make sure, because I know the 92-acre FAA site also is considered moorland management as well, I think some of it. So
Yeah, the zoning switched on the FAA property.
Yeah.
That's right, that was last.
And I
And
just,
there, we're not talking about yet transferring to anybody, because we really haven't worked out whether it's going to be brought in sections
Yes.
or as a whole. There are a lot of open questions.
yep.
Okay.
But this one we already own, so.
Okay.
One more question.
Yeah, please, go ahead, yeah.
Rick, is this part of any kind of land swap deal with the land bank, or is this?
This started before the land swap. There is a land swap under consideration. I believe it's later on under real estate.
I think it's the next one.
This has nothing to do with that?
No, this is nothing. This was a piece that came up, I think, a couple of years ago now, where it was pretty clear that it stands alone, and the conveyance made sense.
You want to see where it is?
Oh.
Let me
Oh, wow.
pass it down if anybody's
Is there
interested.
the right spot, Steve?
Yes. You had it spot on, yeah.
Gee, Rick, I think you're on the beach there.
Special-
Selectmen's Beach.
Selectmen's Beach.
Okay. Further discussion.
Make a motion that we adopt
Second.
support for this.
A motion to adopt and seconded. Discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's fine. Now, the next one, 86, I believe that is what the possible swap, the conveyance of miscellaneous land to the Nantucket Island Land Bank. And that's what I think Mr. Forster talked about the other day, and that was the parcels there. And discussion on this. Now,
I guess I do have a question.
sure, go ahead, yeah.
I guess the question would be through you to the chair.
Mm-hmm.
What's the flip side of this?
Well,
Or is it?
I'm not sure, actually, we've discussed that in executive session,
Right.
Okay.
and I wouldn't mind meeting with you that way, and I don't know if Andrew has gone beyond that with you separately.
No, he has not. He's just alluded that there's something, there is something, that's all.
There are discussions.
Right.
As I say, if you're interested, we'd be happy to meet anytime.
Well, we don't have to take this up today, and if members are so inclined to meet in executive session to hear what the other end is.
I understand the inquiry, and
Yeah.
I'd probably make the same inquiry if I were you.
Thank you, Rick.
That's
Thank
fine. We could do that. That's fine. There's no hurry on this.
Well, I would just say, Mr. Chairman, it's hard to support
This, do we know
something
this?
that you don't know.
All right. Let's,
And we don't have it.
I would agree with that, too.
But I
That's
certainly,
fine.
it's permissive, I assume, as always, and I certainly
Yeah,
have.
in that sense it is, although it's a home rule petition, and once you get it up there, it's a little bit different, because then things can happen.
Okay. Well, why don't we hold on this until, and,
Because, Tim, and I'm not sure I'm absolutely correct on this, but it's talking about a conveyance, and I think when it gets to the state, I'm not sure that's the final word, or whether we have authority after that, I'd have to ask that, but when you have conservation land, it had existing restrictions, and therefore they have to go to the state.
Right.
okay.
You know, Mr. Chairman, one way we could handle this
Yeah.
is we could have a motion that is a motion to adopt,
Mm-hmm.
subject to a meeting with the Board of Selectmen in executive session or something like that. And it's done, and if we have a meeting and we have concerns, we can always withdraw support.
Either way.
It might be cleaner to have it, so it's not typed up in the warrant that way, to be first.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
It's clean and not, you don't have to add.
I'll talk with Libby about scheduling that. And go from
And
there.
I
Yeah.
think Libby and Andrew could meet with you if you want the board finally. We wouldn't have to be there. He knows the terms.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
You know, another way to do it, Mr. Chairman, is the board supporting it, because there's no board comment there. Or, no, there is actually, I think, right?
I think we would, depending on what you guys vote, we would want to say something on this because we think it is worth pursuing.
Well, why don't we do this? I'll arrange with Libby and Andrew to come back and have an executive session to hear the other half, and then we'll take a vote after that, or take a motion after that.
I agree.
Fair enough?
Yep.
Fair.
I'd like to hear what Andrew has to say on this.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just going to make a note of that. All right, moving on to Article 87, another home rule petition, amendment to the Historic District Commission Special Act. Now this, and then correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, this is the hybrid one, which
Yeah.
would make a mix of elected and appointed?
It is.
Yes.
There were a number of people on our board, I think the whole board supported this. Your chair has brought this up in the past. I think it's an idea that mixes some of what Curtis Barnes was interested in with still the elected element here. So it's kind of a hybrid. It seemed to make sense, but I think we ought to talk about it from your perspective
I think we should.
as well.
Well, from my standpoint is, I'm looking at the big picture, is that the way the HDC is functioning, it's crying out for some steps for improvement. And I believe that this article is one step toward that process. Right now, it's a five-member board that's elected with three alternates that are also elected for three-year terms. And my suggestion, when I started thinking about this over a year ago, was that change it from 5 elected members to 3 elected members, 1 per year for a 3-year term, and then 2 members appointed by the Board of Selectmen, either every 2 years or 1 for 2 years every year. And keep the same process for or change the process for the associate from elected to appointed also. So, and the idea behind my thought process is that I believe, such as the Board of Health that has worked out, is that we could attract very qualified and good members without subjecting them to a campaign, and I think in the long run, it would help the board immensely. So that was my original thought, so now I'll be quiet. Further discussion. Cliff?
I think we tried to do this where we had the whole board appointed, and I think town meeting feels like they're taken away, whether they kind of agree with it or not, when you take away the ability to do something from the voter, I think they feel like they participate that much less in the decision-making. So I think this might be a more of an appropriate way to do it, where you, like I said, you don't take away the complete board, but just a portion of the board.
And just so I understand, so you have 3 elected, so each year you'll be electing a member.
That's correct.
And then with the associates, there's 3 associates, those are appointed.
Appointed. That's
And
correct.
those appointed ones would, if it came to, they would be appointed to the appointed side, the 2 appointed sides.
Let's see.
The remaining 2 appointed members.
Well, the way the associates work, I think I understand your question, and let me jump on in. It's a 5-member board, so one's elected to a 3-year term every year, and then 2 are appointed to 2-year terms. So that's a 5-member board. The 3 associates are there to step on in for conflicts or whatever. They would be appointed by the selectmen. So in the end, there'll still be an 8-people board, and it's just that the way that gets to 8 is a different constitution. So I think, but maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're asking.
Well, what happens in the event that of the 3 elected,
Yep.
for whatever reason, one of those members has to step down.
Correct.
So an appointed member replaces an elected member.
Oh, okay. I see. Oh, to finish out their term.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I think probably, and Rick, jump in on this, I would see they would fill in that spot until the next election. Similar to
Or
what the school board is doing right now.
perhaps alternatively, why not have, instead of having 3 appointed associates, have 2 appointed and 1 elected? You know, if you want to.
I suppose we could, yeah, that's certainly an option. That's an option. And in fact, to be honest with you, my original thought was, and this is not in this article, was to keep the associate as it was, have it elected completely. But that was changed up, it's not going to follow through. Steve?
Mr. Chairman, we're on the 6th home rule petition here, and
Yeah.
just to harken back to what Tim brought up before, we can't send up everything, you know, or we risk diluting the whatever sway Tim has and our representatives have for the things that really matter. And I'm not sure that this home rule petition strikes at the heart of what is the problem with the HTC. I'm not sure the problem is who the commissioners are or how they come to sit on the commission. I think there are problems with the process, and there are problems at a staff level, how the applications are, not just the process of how you apply, but how they are processed, and then how the follow-up works.
I think it's all part, but yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, so I just, for that reason, I would suggest that we don't support sending, not resending, sending in this case, this petition.
He makes a good point that it seemed like during the special town meeting, everybody butts heads, everybody puts in articles, and then everybody says they're going to work together. But we never hear, I never hear the end result of what everybody's agreed to as far as the compromise and what they're going to do to better the committee and changes to the committee.
Starting in, and if you're specifically with the HCC, and Rick, correct me if I'm wrong on this, starting with the special town meeting in October of 2012, is a work group was agreed upon at that time to look at the problems with the HCC. And nothing happened really until about November of 2013, so a whole year passed before that group was put together. And they will not have any recommendations for this town meeting. Is that an accurate view?
I would sort of agree maybe with what Steve was, I think there are 2 totally different things here. There's how the HDC might change its administrative methods or whatever, and that's, you know, they're entirely capable of working with counsel or advisors to do that. And that's separate. I think you ought to think about this as a much longer term change that involves the method by which we have 5 commissioners. And the question you might ask yourself, at least I do, in the fully elected mode, how many times is there competition? And there is sometimes. Sometimes we get more than 1, but not all the time. And you sort of have to judge whether or not you think having 2 appointed brings a larger pool and is not a long-term benefit. And that's the way I think you ought to think about it. You know, obviously some people, and Curtis, who is not alone, have been supporting a totally appointed pool. And I think town meeting, I forget how the votes went, but it's not, it hasn't to me been that town meeting totally support one or the other clearly in prior votes on this. And that's another reason where you kind of have a mixture of approaches, but it would seem to our board that made sense to bring forward, and to bring forward this year, because you have these articles from citizens once again on town. And so here's an option in a sense that, as I say, seemed to make logic to us.
Christie.
Yeah, Steve, you raise a good point, but I will say that I've never voted on these depending on how they're going to go up to the state or not. I'm going to vote on it and then let Tim worry about that. I think as a community, we vote on what we think, and as a committee, we vote on what we feel about this, you know, from our standpoint, locally. You know, we've been batting this around for a little bit, and this could be a good example of, you know, making a stand and making a point for this committee.
Thank you.
John David Taylor.
Well, I want to sure he's okay. It's peaceful. Thank you. That's a good comment.
I think for a long time, I'm, not in favor of really changing boards as they are, but this could be I think this could be a good subtle opportunity.
Oh, sure.
To, put this into town meeting with our recommendation.
Is our recommendation? Jeff?
Well, I've been struggling with this one because I understand the immediate need for some type of remedy for what's been, from some people's point of view, not necessarily a fully functional HDC board. On the other hand, I was a selectman for 12 years, and I always thought, as an appointing selectman, that I would much prefer the voter decide who they want, as opposed to 5 individuals on a board on any given Wednesday night decide. So I think that, from my perspective, as much as we have kind of this kind of lip in the road on the history of the HDC, on balance, I think for over 40 years it's worked really well. And although we have an anomaly right now, depending on your point of view, that you might be less than proud or impressed with what's been going on balance, I think it's worked really well, and our community reflects the wisdom of the voter and the integrity of the decisions. So from my perspective, I'm really reluctant to change anything for a short-term little blip in the road that, from a historic point of view, seems to have worked quite well. And so I wouldn't support this for that reason alone. And, I think you have to ask yourself, there's been some people every year that come forward proposing a change, but why is it the same people all the time? I'm not questioning their motives, but the town has answered this bell many times. I think probably the wisdom of the voter is right in all cases.
Greg?
I think I would agree with Tim. To me, the bar is higher for an elected position as opposed to an appointed position. If you're going to run for that office, you have to go. I think you have to invest a lot more. You have to get the petition signed. You have to campaign. You have to stand for the election. Get appointed, it seems a lot easier process. So I definitely give more credence to an elected position than an appointed position. So I'm reluctant to change the way it is.
Okay. All right, John?
Yeah, I don't really care one way or the other, but I think the issue is, to me, the issue here is when you get into an election, people run for election based on what they want, not necessarily whether they're qualified, because we've all seen people run for jobs and they're not even close to being qualified. So the question is where in the appointing process, you at least have a board that is trying to look at it from a point of view of qualifications. I think having a mixture is kind of an interesting combination for me. So I think that I'd be in favor of having that. So.
Okay, thank you. Further comments?
Would like to get somebody that's qualified anyway in there.
Well, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion not to adopt.
Okay, motion not to adopt. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on the motion? Okay. Hearing none. Let's see, how about let's do a show of hands. All those in favor of the motion not to adopt, signify by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3. All those in favor?
Oh,
All
what is it?
those in
Against?
favor not to adopt. Oh, against.
You got a positive, negative.
Yeah.
All those against the motion not to adopt. 1, 2, 3. So 3 a time. I vote against the motion not to adopt, so that motion does not carry. So back to where I wanted to go.
I'd like to make a motion that we double
Okay.
I'll support that.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
We have a motion to adopt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, we have a second. Discussion on the motion to adopt.
I think you shouldn't do it.
Okay, we can do it. That's a comment there. Any other comments?
I've already made my comments.
Okay. All right, so all those in favor to adopt signify by raising their hand. 1, 2, 3. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3. Chair rules motion to adopt. So that motion does carry. All right. One of the few, hopefully, one of the only times I vote this year. Okay. Article 88 is a citizen warrant. It's a home rule petition amendment to the ACC Commission. This is the one that changes. Get my sheets out here. Hold on a second.
Oh, could you? That's fine. Just looking for my notes.
In effect, this is asking us to set aside our prior home rule petition establishing and adopt the
40C.
legislation that exists at the state level, which any town can adopt that, and they don't have to go through it all themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there are some differences between the two that I'm not capable of telling exactly.
The appeals would go to the Regional Planning Commission and then to Superior Court. That's what he explained when he's,
I'm sure there are other differences as
Yeah.
well, though. You sort of pick out the ones that are key to the petitioner in this case.
Mm-hmm.
I think he said also that under the State Act 40C, that'll off over 100 towns have, the ability to react to changes are easier because you don't have to go to the state for approval.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could look, I guess you could sum it up by more local control, but I'm not sure that I feel.
I think this is one where I think you'd have to spend a fair amount of time, talk to the HDC or staff people involved, and get a real sense for what the differences are. I'm not prepared to help you in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
And so sort of before you leap, I think you want to really understand that, which makes sense.
That makes sense. Tim?
One way, Mr. Chairman, that we could handle this, as opposed to, adopt or not to adopt, is maybe defer this for,
Further study?
well, yeah, because there were some intriguing nuances to going this route. And in a few minutes of a public hearing, it's awfully hard to become up to speed. So if we're going to put the gravity of our decision behind it, we ought to know a little more about it, I think.
What about this suggestion, is to refer for further study with the work group that's already underway? Something like that, or we keep it separate? Just trying to think get an idea what you're thinking.
Well, I haven't put a lot of thought in it, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for that.
Yeah, that's right.
To me, maybe this would be a more high-level committee as opposed, in the sense that maybe a couple of finance committee and a couple of selectmen get together and see if this makes sense for the community, as opposed to a group that serves more mechanics of applications and decisions. Am I wrong on that?
No, that's fine. No, that's not wrong at all.
I don't even know if this makes any sense. I mean, I'll have a lot to do, but I didn't want to just dismiss that one because there was some intriguing points in it.
John?
Yeah, my problem with this, I don't know what the difference is. In other words, I don't really feel that I know enough to vote one way or the other on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I know I can remember some smattering of what, even in the open, I think I've heard a couple of people. I've heard Linda Williams talk about it, and I know where she stands, and I've heard Curtis Barnes talk about it, and I know where he stands.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure I'm clear on what the difference is. I really am not. If there's some way for us to look at and say, here's the difference. If you do it this way, this is what it is. If you do it this way, this is what it is. And I don't know how we get there, but I'd like to know that.
Be nice if we could do that. Tim?
Well, maybe what we could do is just defer action on this for this year, and the finance committee will look into it. We'll appoint our own group to look into
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, because I don't, certainly
and
don't.
then we can report back. I mean, we certainly would be within our right to do that. We just don't have enough information.
So, well, we could defer action, then come back later. Why don't we do this? We can take a motion to defer action, and then let's think about a comment, and then in a comment that we could constitute some sort of a group, or consider using that existing group that might be, or not. I don't know. I'm just throwing out. I'm not sure either. So,
Mr. Chairman, I don't support this petition,
Okay.
but just in fairness to the sponsor, who did come here twice to make his case.
Right.
And in light of the fact that this legislation is available online, I think maybe we can defer action just for a couple of weeks and give our committee members time to read up on what this is.
and take it, well, why don't we just,
This isn't something new for a lot of towns. So,
Right.
I'm not sure we need a committee. I think we just need to spend more time as individuals to look into it.
Just need to look at,
well, how about this idea? We still have a few weeks instead of taking any vote on it. Just follow your suggestion, look at the legislation, and then come back and revisit this.
I would appreciate it, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm just not.
Well, by the way, don't feel any pressure from me if I'm voting on any of these. Just so you have all
Just
latitude.
as a suggestion, Mr. Chairman, you might consider on behalf of the committee
Yep.
reaching out to the sponsor, to Curtis Barnes, and having him summarize for us what he sees as the differences, which might, be sort of a crib sheet for us as we read through the legislation ourselves.
that's a good idea.
Okay.
That is a good idea. Because I'm going to read the legislation, I still won't know.
Right.
How about reach out to sponsor for a summary of what of his intentions?
Sure, his
How about that?
intentions
His
and what he
intentions.
sees as the
Somebody,
major
well, why
differences.
what's he
Yeah.
going to do for us?
What it is and why. Yeah, that'd be nice.
That's
Why are you
fine.
doing it?
That's fine.
What are our steps?
All right, sure.
Yeah.
Anything with that? That's fine. All right, so we'll do that.
And then we'll vote it down.
Well, after we look at the legislation.
Curtis, I'm just kidding.
You don't know. Give him a try. All right. Article 89, which is, again, home rule petition, amendment to the ACC Act. This is for completely appointing the commission by the selectmen.
Which is actually a component of Chapter 40C, as it happens.
Maybe you should get the summary.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Why don't we hold action on this one too, Mr. Chairman, until we...
Sure, that would make sense, actually. So you just, we'll have a seat, that's fine. Okay. Then we'll move on to 90, which is a home rule petition relative to retirement benefits for Nantucket Town and County employees. And this is sponsored by Mr. Sperry. And Craig, I guess if, I don't know if it would be the proper protocol, of you sitting in the audience and presenting this, or are we all comfortable with Craig's over the table? I personally, I'm fine with it myself, sitting
Well,
here.
is he presenting it, or we're discussing?
Well, we're discussing it.
Oh, I see, for him.
Right.
Yep.
I'm okay with where
I'm okay with you staying here, too. I just wanted, just for decorum.
Whatever the
So-
committee is comfortable with.
I think we're fine you staying here, so. Okay, so we've heard about this article and received some information, and Martin let us know last night at a representative from the Barnstable County came and talked to the selectmen with an update. So, take it from there. Discussion. I'll look at you first,
Sure.
if you like.
Of course, I would appreciate a positive motion from the committee. Barring that, I would appreciate what was done last year, where there was a vote to take no action, and let it go forth and be discussed on town meeting floor. And I think as a result of what happened at last year's town meeting, there was a lively discussion and an extended discussion that I think we should give the voters that opportunity to have that discussion. And the fact that it was brought up yesterday at the meeting, I think this is still something on the radar screen, and it should be brought forth and allowed to be discussed, and not have, if the committee's not comfortable giving a positive motion, that just to take no action on it.
I have
Good.
a question.
Sure.
From Mr. Sprague.
Yep.
Do you Do you think that over the past year that this has had enough discussion to where it's been fully vetted and ready to take this step?
I think so, and I think with this year's version, I think the difference is, this is sort of the new and improved version where the key to this year's citizens article is that what is being offered is a hybrid pension plan, where it's taking what we have now, there you go, it's based on the state of Utah system, where it's a pension with a 401k built in to the same system. And it has some other changes that are different than the way the system is now. But the idea is it addresses the unfunded liability portion, and it's sustainable on a long-term basis. And I think there's enough concern out in the community about going forward with programs that are sustainable, not just for the pension part of things, but with OPEB. And that should be a discussion we have at another time, but I think that's something that really needs to be on the radar screen also. So I think these items really need to be brought forth and talked about. I don't think they're talked about enough, and I think this is an opportunity where the community gets to discuss them.
Yeah.
And sure.
Do you have any idea how this would be received at the state?
Well, I did
I
talk.
know that was a difficult point. That was a component last year,
Yeah.
at least of my voting on it, which said it would be extremely difficult.
Sure.
But
And to answer that question, Christine, you can call me Craig.
sounds good.
I talked to Representative Madden actually a few times for kind of extended periods. I was surprised he offered me that much time. I was very pleased that he took that much time out of his schedule to talk to me. And he was pretty frank, and he said, this is going to be tough to pass. He says what'll happen is it's not going to get the attention of the legislature until you have about 6 communities pass a similar motion or article. Then that gets their attention. Then it's on the radar screen of the legislature. So this, in many ways, is going to be a symbolic vote. For people to think they're going to vote for Article 90, and then next year they're going to have the hybrid pension system in place. It's not going to happen like that. This is really to get the attention of the legislature and other communities. This is really kind of, once again, Nantucket takes a leadership role in identifying something that really needs to be talked about and for lack of a better word, fixed, or something that would work better looking into the future and having something be sustainable over the long term. And so to answer your question, it's unlikely this would pass the legislature, but it's an important first step. So let's assume this does pass, and I think this has an actually pretty good chance. It goes with the Board of Selectmen's blessing to the State House, and okay, so it doesn't pass, but in the meantime, the conversation started, and other communities are like, hey, look what Nantucket did. Maybe we should talk about this. So this could be the start of something big, and I think it's a worthy proposal, and I think we should do it.
Well, I read everything that you forwarded and listened to you over the years, and I'm willing to support this. And as you say, to get the discussion going, because I think it could be a positive thing in even 10 years if it's that. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
John?
Yeah, I'm kind of where Christie is, and where Craig is really from a point of view is that, if you're a realist in today's world, no one wants to deal with this issue. Everybody's got their head in the sand, and they don't want to take it out. If nothing else, this just pulls the head out a little bit. So I think at least we can get it out there and make an effort to try to get some dialogue going, which it's like kind of like spitting in the ocean a little bit, but I think it's worth the effort.
I think we have started the dialogue. I think that's why we have the Wage and Compensation Committee probably, and we've made a motion here to provide money so that we could compare the retirement plans, because I think it's just it's a huge swap, and if you don't really know the numbers and you don't know the real impacts, I think we're hastily, making a decision almost as important as the landfill contract. I'd like to look through the numbers and explore the numbers and be able to tell people going from this one to this one, and this is what we save. And I think that's why it was a great motion that we say we provide some money to research that. And I know it's been a year, and I know the wheels turn slowly, but I just think we should, like you said, take no action and try to continue on and push on to get some more answers through the committees first before we give a positive motion.
John?
Question. You say the committee's dealing with it. I was on the committee for one meeting,
Yep.
and I got an impression that they weren't going to touch this with a fork. So maybe they changed their mind on this,
Well, I talked to Matt about it, so, and he said that, one of the committee was pretty diverse, and it took a while. I missed a bunch of meetings, but they didn't get too far because they were trying to find the mission statement probably for the first 3 meetings. So I think the wage and compensation survey, once that comes out, that's going to, I know, it's slow, but once that comes out, then we can take that and use the overall compensation. Now say, okay, you put that and compare it to different retirement plans. It's got to be,
not about compensation, but that's the problem. You want to spend time studying compensation plans, you can study them up to the WAS. But the point is, this is a whole concept here, and that's the deal. Either we're going to talk about this or we're not.
Well, I think we're talking about, regardless if we say negative, positive, or whatever it is, it came on the floor last year, and it'll obviously come this year. I'm just saying I didn't give the landfill last week a positive recommendation because, like Jim Kelly says, I can't vote for it or vote against it if I can't even add up the numbers and I don't know what's going on. So I guess that's where I stand.
Tim?
I want to echo what Cliff is saying. I know, Craig, you're eager to bring this forward again, but I think you were successful last year in getting the Finance Committee to establish a working group of selectmen and Finance Committee members to look into this. And probably the speed in which they're working on it hasn't been satisfactory to you, but I think you should allow that to come forward, and you may find it will support even stronger your zest for this, or we may find that actually this would be a huge mistake for us. And I feel like Jim said last week, that I don't know whether to support this or know whether to run away from it. And until I get the facts, I would like very much to support the Compensation Committee. And, the idea of the Finance Committee supporting in the form of a FinCom transfer of the committee for whatever consultants or experts or actuarials they need to look at this and to get to the point where we all have the information to make a sound decision, I'm all for. And to vote for this article now, I think is kind of like going off without the facts. So I don't support it tonight. And just one last comment that I would make personally that I've had about this. I'm very concerned that if this were to pass, it's already very difficult for the town to hire and attract good qualified people to the island. And if we had a different pension system than the rest of the Commonwealth, that's just one more thing to make it more difficult to attract teachers or policemen, because they might get a better deal if they went to Martha's Vineyard or Chatham, or because our pension plan is less than what everyone else has. So there's a lot of reasons to look at this carefully before we make a decision, and for that reason, I can't support it tonight.
Further comments? John?
We may surprise ourselves and find out that people like this better. That's been my experience in private business when they moved away from it. And so Tim, your assumption that it's lesser is not a good assumption.
Well, I'm not making any assumptions.
Well, that's what it sounds like. To me, it sounded like you were saying that we'd have a harder time attracting people because it's lesser. And I'm saying
Could be.
It could be an attraction to people too, because in my own experience in the private sector, it was.
Steve?
It seems to me that we're in the enviable position of benefiting from how slowly the wheels of progress and wheels of government turn. If we support this article, as Craig reminds us, nothing is going to go into effect on January 1st, 2015 or 16. I mean, this is the start, one step in a direction of a very long process. So, I think that this is a conversation we need to have. It's a big problem, and then this is one potential solution. You're right, Tim, and you're also right, Cliff, that this may not wind up being something that we find is necessary or is the best solution, but this isn't the final vote. We'll have plenty more bites at this apple, but this will elevate the issue for further scrutiny and more conversation. And for that reason, I'm going to support it tonight.
Very good. All right. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Well, I'd like to make one more comment. Now,
Sure.
In response to what I've heard, I would just remind everybody that even the sponsor of the article said, it's largely symbolic. If you go back to earlier comments that have been made tonight as far as diluting our horsepower, if you will, on Beacon Hill, this is a good one. We all know isn't going to go anywhere, frankly. Yet we want to take the vote for what? So that we can claim some sort of hollow victory? I just think that if we, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. What I mean by that is maybe if you let the compensation committee finish their work, and they were constituted as a result of the article last year, you might find that you have unanimous support. But I feel like we're like 2 chapters into a long novel, and we haven't got to the end yet. So I can't write a book review when I haven't finished the book. And I guess that's all I was doing, was applying the brakes a little bit to let our committee that we constitute finish their work before. And I try to extend an olive branch with the sense that we would support financially whatever additional experts that the committee needed to accelerate it and help, shepherd the decision. And I still stand ready to do that, but you want to get to the finish line quicker, I guess. So for that, I certainly respect the majority.
John?
Yeah, Stephen, also, I like to kid on some of these things, but this time I'm going to summarize what my thinking. Steve said it well, and that is, to me, you've got a lot of bites at the apple. What we're saying is if we defeat this, we don't want to even look at it. And that's what we're saying. And I don't even talk about committees or anything else, because I think one of the things that this will do, if this starts the process, is it'll lend a sense of urgency to the fact that we've got to look at it. Because at some point in time, we run out of bites of the apple. But we've got more bites to come. And I think the point is, I'd like to see a sense of urgency around looking at this. I don't know whether this is the right thing to do or not. I have no idea, quite frankly. I know I've had some success with it, but this is a different issue. In the public sector, it's a different issue. And Tim makes good points, and he knows there because he's lived there. From a competitive point of view and everything else. But what I worry about is if we don't start providing some impetus, we're not going to look at it. Because you saw it in town meeting last year. You could see the town employees. When the thing came up, you could just see it. Boy, I looked around that room and I knew who I was looking at, and I could see it. It's like no sale, without even, and they have no knowledge of it either. It's just, we don't even want to look at it. So I'm saying this would provide us that some impetus. And we've got plenty of time to say, gee, we looked at it and we don't think it's a good idea at all. Bang. We can nail it down anytime.
Cliff?
Yeah, I guess you either use the positive or negative philosophy of, that's why I think Craig said just take no action, not defeat it, but at the same time, I'm not going to say I agree with it, because I think when I say I agree with it, it means I totally understand it, and I believe it's better than what we have, and I don't know that yet. That's why I just taken a position of take no action, or that was my, either positive or negative.
Tim?
The other thing I would say, and I'm guilty, I wasn't at the presentation last night, but one thing that would be good for us to hear as a committee, I don't know how many of you went, but it might be good to hear what the meeting was like last night, and maybe some of the concerns or questions might be answered if we had kind of a summary of what went on last night. I don't want to turn the discussion into a debate on that, but there might have been some information gleaned by the Board of Selectmen last night that would change maybe how we feel. And I'm not sure. I think you might have been there. I just sensed that. But I don't know what the board felt, and it might be helpful for us to know that as well.
I think it was recorded, yeah.
It was.
The meeting was recorded last night?
I watched it on TV.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
we're always visible.
I wish you were more visible.
You're now visible, right? It's good.
That's all right.
It's balanced.
All right. Christie?
I was just going to ask for those that are on the work group, if...
The personnel compensation?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
If this would, depending on what the vote would be, how that would affect the committee as far as its work? Would it empower you to do, I don't know, seek further into this if the vote came through, or would it stall the work you're doing?
Mr. Chairman, can you, which vote? The vote here or the vote at town meeting?
I'm sorry, this vote, for the committee to vote on
Oh,
this.
okay.
Well, I guess ultimately the vote at town meeting, if it passed or not.
Sure.
I think the philosophy is, and John tried to, I'm not sure what the point was as far as compensation. I think wage and retirement and benefits are all part of your compensation. I mean, when someone usually takes less pay, and you'll hear them say, oh, because I'm going to this job because it has better benefits. And then somebody will say, oh, I don't have benefits. And so that's always part of it. It's always consideration. So that's why I think the retirement and the pay is all one and the same. It's an overall compensation package. You can comment.
Oh, Martin, I'm sorry. I'm not looking
I just want
on.
to make one comment on the basis of yesterday's presentation. That might be a good idea for the whole community to look at the presentation. Because one thing that strikes me, and I'm speaking from the finance perspective as a budget analyst, is we're funding unfunded liabilities with Barnstable County Retirement. And we're going to continue to fund those, regardless of the changes you make. Even if this was to pass, and we decide to go with a hybrid plan, the town would be still responsible for the unfunded liabilities from the past
Right.
until 2038. I just want everybody to be aware of the financial implications. So the presentation might be, yesterday might be a good idea for everybody to see and look from, I'm not swaying opinion one way or the other, don't get me wrong. Just
Appreciate it.
from the finance perspective of the whole issue.
Craig?
I think it's important to reiterate the point that this program is for new hires only, that granted that the existing unfunded liabilities are being, dealt with, they don't go away. We have to deal with those. But the idea is that with new hires, this program starts, fresh, so to speak, and that it's going to take, 20, 25, 30 years for those that are in the current program to cycle out, and then with this new program, it begins the new, let's say, sustainable era. So,
Tim?
Well, that's one of my biggest concerns, Craig, is that you give that impression, but yet by the same token, this only goes after half the employees. This doesn't count any school employee whatsoever, right? And so if you're going to look at the problem, wouldn't we want to look at it comprehensively as opposed to just Barnstable County workers as opposed to teachers? And you and I have talked about this before. But maybe if the committee would at least indulge those of us to watch the meeting, it might be helpful for me. The meeting last night, I didn't get to see it. So.
Well, and I guess to your point, that we have closer control over Barnstable County retirement and Nantucket, alone. The teachers, they're part of the state teacher retirement fund, and we don't really have as much control over that. So it's a whole other kettle of fish. Not to say that down the road that won't be dealt with, but that's I think I said it before. We have a ladder here of different topics to deal with, and pensions are one, OPEB's another. And I guess you could even take pensions and make two rungs on the ladder. You have town employee pensions and you have teacher pensions. So there's many rungs to deal with here.
Further comments? Well, here we are, and it's certainly welcome to make a motion.
Could I ask the group to defer action on this, like we did with Curtis, just so that the presentation will be watched? I don't think it's probably change your mind, or my mind, but I would like to, as a finance committee, we kind of have a broader purview of what we're supposed to look at. So there may have been some comments too about the law and how this comports with the law. I don't know if she commented on that.
Well, I'd support that suggestion. I didn't get the chance to watch the meeting last night, so I'd certainly like to avail myself of the opportunity, and then we can revisit later, maybe with a full committee also.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Yeah, no hurry.
That's fine. So be it.
It would have been better to see Chairman Atherton live, but MREX will have to do that.
I'm totally distressed that you're not at home watching it with a glass of wine and relaxing.
At home, we can't throw things.
But you're more likely.
At home you can. Yeah, at home you can.
Okay. All right, so nothing on this one.
Yep.
All right. Moving along, Article 90. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Just one
Sure, go ahead.
observation on the last discussion. At some point, sponsored license or but it's going to be a lot easier if this goes to town meeting and passes, if we think about starting out and making a 401k an option, and so that an employee has the choice initially to join the pension plan if he chooses to be a 401k guy, and that might have a lot more political acceptance if you get to the state legislature. So it's just, as you all think about that as another way to think through the issue.
Thank you for the suggestion. Doesn't solve the problem. Okay. Moving along then, Article 91. We've already taken action on this, the home rule petition for funeral directors, embalmers, funeral homes, and crematories. And our motion was to take no action. But if I comment, it's still forthcoming. The next, Article 92, is the last home rule petition. It's a conveyance of land from county to the town. And I believe this is the Baxter Road area that's going from the county to the town, so that it'd be easier for the town to deal with the access issues. Okay. So discussion on this. Tim.
Mr. Chairman, I always, the town has a history in the county of conveying land as soon as possible from the county to the town so that the citizens are in control on Nantucket, as opposed to running the risk of county land being seized by the Commonwealth. So I think we should carry on the tradition and get it over as soon as possible.
Yep.
Fair enough. Good. That sounds good.
I agree
John?
with Tim.
All right, great.
Was that a motion? I second it.
Yes, thank you.
So motion to adopt?
Yes.
Motion to adopt in a second. Okay. Discussion on the motion? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Adopt. All right, great. Now, we finished the home rule petitions for now. The ones we have left to decide on are number 90, number 89, number 88, number 86. So we will come back to those. I believe that's everyone. And at a later time. It's 5:30 now. I know some members have to leave. We can hold off on the real estate. We've made some good progress, if everyone's comfortable with that. Okay, so why don't we do this today, and we'll move on to the date of our next meeting, which is Tuesday, February 18th, at 4:15 at the Cyrus Pierce Middle School cafeteria, where the topics will be 4:15, which will be Contract Review Committee and Human Services. And I will also, Martin, let's put on the real estate warrant articles for review at that time. So it'll be, yeah, so we'll put on from, how about, we'll put on from 93 to 105. Okay? And then we'll go from there. Okay. Any questions or comments before I ask for an adjournment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. One.
Yeah.
Is it possible that any, in addition to watching the meeting last night, if there were any submittals from Barnstable County to the town, that they be provided to the Finance Committee so we could look at them as well? I don't know if there were.
Was there anything in the packet?
If you go to our package, there are
It's in the packet.
100 pages.
Oh, really?
Okay, so it's in your
Oh, it
packet.
was voluminous.
On me.
All kinds of stuff.
More than you ever want to read. It's all there.
Okay, to answer your question. Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Okay, great, everybody have a nice weekend, nice holiday, see you on Tuesday. Thanks, Cliff, for hanging out. Well, we got some done, we're getting there, we're getting there. We got, we're trying.
Progress today.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Cliff. Talk to you later.
Bet you all the money
Oh, yeah, no, no. It's an expensive one.
that could deal with this issue.
Oh, we will.
Got your petition with you? You want a signature?
Oh, no, no. I'm not going to get going.
See, the issue is I'm not sure either.
I think it's I think we're going to do it as the overall compensation. I really do. I mean, we're on the committee. How can you not talk about it?
Well, that's right. Because there's a tremendous inertia about it. When you saw it last year at town meeting, and that came up. Was somebody phoning you? I was looking at town meeting.
No, that's always.
Well, good thing
Let's
that
go to a lot of
committee then.
No, but I mean, I don't have any idea. The thing I object to